"I need freedom," said the note from my husband of 20 years, as if our marriage was some medium-security prison he'd earned parole from. I laughed so hard I spilled my Target latte all over the carpet he swore matched his eyes. Here in Austin, Texas, our Westlake Hills neighborhood is the kind of place where divorces are planned at spa retreats and announced at garden parties. I, Maeve Collins, 45-year-old event photographer and CFO of the family business we built together, had always been the perfect wife material. Smiling for Instagram photos while he worked late, smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. While Troy discovered his authenticity with a CrossFit instructor named Amber, as predictable as a Hallmark movie ending, I decided to respect his wish. Quietly, I consulted our attorney, Ramona, who reminded me I still had full access to our joint retirement fund, the one that grew thanks to my conservative financial management while Troy wanted to invest in digital monkey NFTs. In 6 months, I discreetly reorganized the company's assets, sold our Westlake Hills mansion, bought a modest but impressive yacht I christened Floating Board Meeting, and anchored it in Galveston. I documented Troy's company diversions and showed everything to his 3 sisters, who had always been suspicious of him and adored me since the wedding. When Troy finally returned home, he found only an empty property and a new board of directors at the office, consisting of me and his 3 sisters. As he stared confused at the cubicle next to the bathroom that now had his name on it, his phone rang. It was me, calling from my yacht. "I found the freedom you mentioned, honey. It's expensive, but worth every penny of our retirement fund. Oh, your sisters send their regards and say they're looking forward to tomorrow's quarterly shareholders meeting. You can join via Zoom, if you can get Wi-Fi signal in that cubicle." The thing about freedom is that it comes in many forms. Troy's version apparently included a 29-year-old with abs you could grate cheese on and a vocabulary limited to "feel the burn" and "push through it." Mine came with an 82-foot Sunseeker yacht and a corporate restructuring that would make Harvard Business School professors slow clap in admiration. I should back up. I'm Maeve Collins, and until 6 months ago, I was living the perfect Westlake Hills life. You know the one, the suburban Texas dream with a house that looked like Joanna Gaines had personally blessed it, a husband who looked good in family Christmas card photos, and a joint bank account that never dipped below 6 figures. Our company, Collins Creative Solutions, had grown from a kitchen table startup to a multi-million-dollar marketing firm with 30 employees and a glass-walled office downtown with views of Lady Bird Lake. For 20 years, I smiled through charity galas and country club brunches while secretly running both our company finances and our household with military precision. Troy was the face of the business, all charming smiles and golf course deals, while I was the Excel spreadsheet wizard who actually kept us profitable. The perfect power couple, at least on LinkedIn. The Tuesday morning Troy left, I was preparing for our quarterly board meeting. I had spreadsheets open, presentation slides ready, and a fresh Target latte beside me. When I found his note on the kitchen island, not even the decency of a face-to-face conversation. Something inside me, probably the part that had been swallowing sarcastic comebacks for 2 decades, finally cracked. "Maeve, I need to find myself. I need freedom to explore who I really am. Please don't try to contact me. I'll be in touch when I'm ready." Troy, who writes a breakup note on a Tuesday? At least have the courtesy to ruin my weekend properly. I called his sister Vivian first. As the oldest of the 4 Collins siblings, she had always seen through Troy's charm offensive. "He did what?" Her voice hit a pitch that probably made neighborhood dogs howl. "On a board meeting day?" "Apparently self-discovery doesn't follow the corporate calendar," I replied, surprising myself with the calmness in my voice. "Where did he go?" Vivian demanded. "Didn't specify. But based on the Lululemon receipt I found in his jacket last week and the suspicious 6 a.m. networking breakfasts, I'm guessing it involves squats and someone named Amber." After calls to Audrey and Piper, Troy's other sisters who reacted with similar outrage and offers to hunt him down like the dog he is, I did something that would have shocked anyone who knew Perfect Wife Maeve. I didn't cry. I didn't call his friends or his mother. I didn't post a cryptic quote on social media. Instead, I went to our board meeting alone. "Troy won't be joining us today," I announced to our executive team. my voice steady as I connected my laptop to the projector. Or for the foreseeable future. He's on an extended leave of absence exploring his personal freedom. Now, shall we discuss Q4 projections? The looks on their faces were priceless. A mixture of shock, confusion, and that particular brand of corporate panic that emerges when someone goes off script. But here's what 20 years as the woman behind the man had taught me. Business waits for no midlife crisis. That evening, I made one more call. To Ramona Prescott, our corporate attorney, and the only person who knew exactly how our business was structured. Ramona, it's Maeve. Troy left me this morning. I need to know exactly what my options are. Ramona, bless her shark and Louboutin soul, didn't miss a beat. Personally or professionally? Both. And I need to know before he remembers he has responsibilities. What followed was a 3-hour crash course in marital asset division, corporate governance, and the beautiful loophole Troy had created when he made me CFO with full signatory powers. Because paperwork bores me, Mavie baby. See, my husband had always operated on charm and delegation. He signed whatever I put in front of him, trusting I would handle the boring details while he did the visionary stuff. This included, ironically, the shareholder agreement that gave voting rights to all Collins siblings in the event of a management dispute. By midnight, as I sat alone in our oversized house sipping the Macallan 18, Troy had been saving for a special occasion. I had a plan forming. Not just any plan, the kind that would make even the revenge-hungry suburbanites in my Westlake book club slow blink in admiration. Troy wanted freedom? I'd give him something much more valuable, perspective. As I stared at our wedding photo on the mantel, Troy looking like he'd won a prize, me looking like the prize, I raised my glass in a silent toast. Game on, husband, game on. The morning after Troy's great escape, I woke up with the kind of clarity that usually requires either therapy or tequila. My Westlake Hills neighbors would have expected tears and immediate calls to a divorce attorney. Instead, I took a shower, put on my power suit, and headed to the office as if my husband hadn't just Marie Kondoed me from his life. "Morning, Diane," I greeted our receptionist, who looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Mrs. Collins, we didn't expect you today." Mr. Collins called and said there was a family emergency. Did he now? I smiled the smile I reserve for incompetent vendors. The emergency is that Mr. Collins has decided to explore alternative lifestyle options that involve spandex and poor decision-making. The company, however, will continue functioning without interruption. By lunchtime, the office rumor mill was working harder than my Peloton after Thanksgiving dinner. I could feel the sideways glances and hushed conversations. 20 years as a corporate wife had taught me that perception is everything, so I called an impromptu staff meeting. "I'm sure you've all heard that Troy is taking some personal time," I announced to our 30 employees, my voice as calm as if discussing quarterly projections. "What you may not know is that Collins Creative Solutions has always operated under dual leadership. While Troy handled client acquisition, I've managed our financial strategy, operational logistics, and client fulfillment. Nothing changes about our business operations." Curtis, Troy's golf buddy and our sales director, raised his hand. "But Maeve, Troy is the face of the company. Clients expect to see him. And they will, Curtis. On our website and marketing materials, which, as I recall, feature photos from 3 years ago when Troy still had all his hair." I smiled sweetly. "In the meantime, I'll be assuming Troy's client meetings." The look of barely concealed panic on Curtis's face was like watching someone realize they've accidentally replied all to an email complaining about their boss. Priceless. That evening, Troy's mother called. Eleanor Collins, a woman who believed that family problems should be handled with the same discretion as classified government documents, was predictably horrified. "Maeve, darling, what's this I hear about Troy taking a sabbatical? And from Vivian, of all people." Translation: "How dare you tell my daughters before I could control the narrative?" It's not exactly a sabbatical, Eleanor. Unless sabbaticals typically start with "Dear John" notes and end with 29-year-old fitness instructors. The sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line was so dramatic, I worried she might need her emergency inhaler. "I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. Eleanor said, her voice dripping with Southern comfort and denial. Troy would never— Check his Instagram, Eleanor. He's not exactly being subtle. Sure enough, Troy had already posted a sunrise yoga photo with a caption about embracing authenticity and beginning a new journey. He hadn't tagged Amber, but her distinctive leg warmers were visible in the background. By the end of the first week, 3 things became clear. First, Troy had emptied our personal checking account, though not our investment portfolio. Thank you, separate passwords. Second, he'd expected me to sit quietly in our Westlake Hills mansion, waiting for his return like some corporate Penelope. And third, he had severely, catastrophically underestimated me. On Friday afternoon, I invited Ramona to our house for wine and legal strategy. He took the checking account but left you as primary signatory on all the business accounts? Ramona asked, swirling her Cabernet with the same precision she used to dismantle opposing counsel. That's like locking your car but leaving your wallet on the seat. Troy always said I had a head for numbers, not strategy, I replied, refilling her glass. Apparently he believed it. Ramona's smile was all teeth. So what's your play here, Maeve? Quick divorce while he's distracted by his midlife crisis? I leaned back in my chair, feeling a strange sense of calm. No, I'm thinking of something more educational. Educational? Troy's always been surrounded by women who clean up his messes. His mother, his sisters until they got fed up, and then me. For 20 years, I've been the organizational wizard behind his success. He thinks the company runs on his charm and golf handicap. And you want to show him otherwise, Ramona nodded, already seeing where I was going. I want him to understand exactly what freedom costs. Over the next month, I became a woman possessed, not by rage or grief, but by a kind of cold, efficient purpose that would have made Marie Kondo proud. While Troy was posting inspirational quotes about living his truth from various Austin yoga studios, I was quietly reorganizing our entire corporate structure. First, I scheduled meetings with our top clients. Without Troy's knowledge, I had been the one handling their actual work for years, so most were unsurprised to see me taking a more visible role. Troy's always said you were the brains of the operation, said Margaret Whitfield, CEO of our largest client. Though I admit he usually followed that with a comment about your backside in pencil skirts. Charming, I replied dryly. Well, now you get the brains without commentary on the accompanying anatomy. Next came the financial restructuring. With Ramona's guidance, I began the careful process of separating personal and business assets. Troy had always insisted on mingling the two. It's all family money, Mavie baby, despite my accountant's repeated warnings. Meanwhile, Troy's sisters were proving to be unexpected allies. Vivian, Audrey, and Piper had watched their brother coast on charm and delegation for decades, and they were all too happy to assist in what Piper called Troy's overdue reality check. He did the same thing in college, Audrey told me over brunch at Magnolia Cafe. Had his girlfriends write his papers while he took credit for the grades. Remember when he convinced Mom that his failed business was actually a strategic learning experience? Piper added, stabbing her avocado toast with unnecessary force. And she refinanced her house to fund his next venture, Vivian finished, rolling her eyes. As stakeholders in the family business, the Collins sisters had never taken an active role, preferring to let their brother play CEO while they pursued their own careers. Now, they were ready for board seats. Is this legal? Piper asked Ramona at our strategy dinner. The shareholder agreement Troy signed gives voting rights to all Collins siblings, Ramona explained. He just never imagined they'd vote against him. He never imagined we'd bother reading the fine print, Vivian corrected. By month 3, I had methodically separated our lives in ways Troy hadn't anticipated. I transferred my personal belongings to a luxury apartment downtown, listed our Westlake Hills mansion with a discreet realtor, and began looking at waterfront properties in Galveston. Troy remained blissfully unaware, lost in what I can only describe as a CrossFit and green juice fever dream. His occasional texts were masterpieces of narcissistic oblivion. Hope you're doing okay. Finding myself in ways I never imagined. Space was the right call. I replied with supportive banality. So glad you're finding clarity. Take all the time you need. What Troy didn't know What he had never bothered to learn in 20 years of marriage was that I had always dreamed of living on the water, not in a Westlake Hills mansion chosen for its impression on clients, but somewhere I could watch the sunrise over waves with a cup of coffee in hand. So when the perfect yacht came on the market, an 82-foot Sunseeker with a master suite and enough entertaining space for board meetings, I knew exactly what freedom looked like. And it wasn't a note on a kitchen island. Month 4 of Troy's freedom journey brought the plot twist I hadn't seen coming. Not because I wasn't paying attention, but because even I hadn't realized how deep Troy's delusions ran. It was a Tuesday morning. Apparently Tuesdays are when the Collins family makes life-altering decisions, when I received an email from Troy's personal account. The subject line read, "Moving forward, business proposal." I nearly spilled my latte, again, when I opened it. Maeve, hope you're well. I've been doing some thinking about our company's future. I'd like to sell my stake in Collins Creative Solutions to pursue a new venture in wellness and personal transformation with Amber. We're launching Authentic Self, a lifestyle coaching business. As a courtesy, I'm offering you first right of refusal to buy me out before I approach outside investors. Let's discuss terms. Troy. I stared at my screen, torn between hysterical laughter and genuine amazement. In Troy's mind, he was still CEO. He still owned a controlling stake in the company, and he could simply cash out to fund his green juice empire with Amber of the enviable abs. I forwarded the email to Ramona with one line. Is he serious? Her response came minutes later. He genuinely doesn't know, does he? By doesn't know, she meant the small detail that in the past 4 months I had. 1. Restructured the company's executive leadership with board approval. 2. Completed the sale of our Westlake Hills mansion, pocketing a tidy $3 million. 3. Secured unanimous support from Troy's sisters to remove him as CEO for abandonment of duties. And 4. Transferred most of our joint investment assets into a new management account. All completely legal. All with proper documentation. All with signatures Troy had provided over the years when he was too busy being visionary to read the fine print. I called an emergency meeting with the Collins sisters. He wants to sell his shares to fund a wellness brand with Spandex Barbie, I announced, putting my laptop on Vivian's dining table. All 3 sisters leaned in to read the email. Authentic self? Piper snorted. The only authentic thing about Troy is his authentic inability to manage his own checking account. Audrey, always the pragmatic middle sister, tapped the screen. Does he even understand he's already been voted out as CEO? Apparently not, I replied. Troy's selective attention has reached new heights. He's been getting the company-wide emails, but I'm guessing the subject lines didn't include urgent or golf, so he didn't open them. Vivian, corporate lawyer and oldest Collins sibling, leaned back with a thoughtful expression. This is actually perfect. He thinks he's making a power move, but he's handing us exactly what we need. His voluntary separation from the company. Without the messy litigation we were preparing for, I added. So what's your move, Maeve? Piper asked. I smiled the smile that had closed our biggest deals. I'm going to give Troy exactly what he wants. Freedom from all those pesky corporate responsibilities. And then I'm going to show him exactly what that freedom costs. The next day, I met Troy at a trendy juice bar of his choosing. He arrived 15 minutes late, sporting a man bun and athleisure wear that probably cost more than some of our employees' monthly salaries. Maeve! He air-kissed near my cheek, smelling of expensive cologne and entitlement. You look corporate. One of us should, I replied pleasantly. Troy slid into the seat across from me, already scrolling through his phone. So, about my proposal. I'm thinking a clean break is best for everyone. I couldn't agree more. He looked up, surprised by my easy acquiescence. Great. So I've been thinking fair market value for my shares, plus a premium for my role as founder. Founder? I interrupted gently. Well, yeah. My vision, my clients, Our company was registered under both our names, Troy. We secured initial funding together. We built the client list together. The only thing you personally founded was a convenient narrative. He had the audacity to look offended. That's not very... And as for your shares, I continued, sliding a folder across the table, Here's our counteroffer. Troy flipped through the documents, his expression morphing from confidence to confusion to something approaching panic. This says I own 12% of the company. That's impossible. I'm the majority shareholder. You were, I corrected. Before you transferred portions to your sisters over the years for tax advantages. Before you approved the employee stock option plan. Before the board's recent recapitalization vote. The board can't vote without me. The board can absolutely vote without you when you've abandoned your position for 4 months. Check your email, not just the subject lines. Troy's face flushed as he continued reading. And this valuation is fair market value, confirmed by 2 independent assessors, as required by our bylaws. This is ridiculous. I built this company. No, Troy, we built this company. I just maintained it while you were finding your authentic self between yoga poses. His phone buzzed. Amber, according to the illuminated screen. Troy's expression softened immediately as he checked the message. That's when I knew with absolute certainty that whatever had existed between us was truly over. Not because he had found someone else, but because he had never really seen me at all. Look, he said, his tone shifting to the one he used when trying to close reluctant clients. I think we can work something out that's beneficial for everyone. Why don't you take some time to reconsider? This offer is not what I expected. Translation. This isn't going my way, so I'll stall until I find leverage. Actually, Troy, time is something we don't have much of. The offer expires in 48 hours. After that, we proceed with formal removal proceedings, which will trigger the forced share repurchase clause at a significantly lower valuation. His smile faltered. You wouldn't do that. I already have. The paperwork is filed and waiting. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. Oh, and the mansion sold last week. Your belongings are in storage, paid through the end of the month. The invoice is in the folder. As I walked out of the juice bar, leaving Troy staring at documents that dismantled his carefully constructed reality, I felt neither triumph nor anger. Just the quiet satisfaction of finally charging fair market value for 20 years of underappreciated competence. The next 48 hours were surprisingly peaceful. I moved into my downtown apartment permanently, set up my home office overlooking the Austin skyline, and finalized the purchase of my yacht. The vessel needed minor renovations before I could live aboard. Nothing that a woman who had remodeled 3 homes while maintaining a full-time career couldn't handle. Troy called exactly 4 times during those 2 days. I let each call go to voicemail, listening later as his messages evolved from confident negotiation to confused bargaining to reluctant acceptance. His final message came at hour 47. Fine, I'll sign the agreement as is. But I want the Maserati and my grandfather's watch collection. I texted back. The Maserati is yours. The watches were moved to the safety deposit box last month. Ramona will arrange a time for signature and exchange. What I didn't tell him was that I'd already purchased my own vehicle, a sensible yet luxurious Range Rover that could tow a boat trailer when needed. I had never liked the Maserati anyway. It was uncomfortable and attracted the wrong kind of attention. As I packed the last of my office belongings, preparing for the company's move to our new headquarters, a decision made during one of those board meetings Troy hadn't bothered to attend, I came across a photo from our company's launch party 20 years ago. Troy and I, champagne glasses raised, his arm around my waist, both of us smiling with the unbridled optimism of people who thought they were building the same dream. I didn't feel sad looking at it. I felt like I was viewing artifacts from someone else's life. Interesting, but no longer relevant to my story. My phone buzzed with a text from Ramona. Papers signed, transfer complete. You now officially own 88% of Collins Creative Solutions. Freedom, it turned out, could indeed be expensive. Just not for me. Month 5 brought the moment every good revenge story needs. The confrontation. Not the emotional, tear-filled showdown Troy probably expected, but something far more devastating. The quarterly shareholder meeting. I selected the conference room at the Four Seasons downtown, partly for its impeccable service, but mostly for its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lady Bird Lake, symbolic high ground to match our literal one. Troy arrived 15 minutes late, consistent to the end, wearing what I can only describe as Business casual meets yoga retreat. Designer jeans, an untucked button-down, and those ridiculous barefoot-style shoes that cost more than regular shoes despite containing less material. "Sorry I'm late," he announced to the room as if his arrival was the event everyone had been waiting for. Traffic on Mopac was insane. He faltered when he realized the meeting was already well underway. Around the table sat the company's new power structure, me at the head, Vivian and Audrey representing their shared 12% ownership, Piper beside our new COO Patricia, poached from our biggest competitor, our CFO Derek, promoted from within after I stepped into the CEO role, and Ramona with her legal pad. "Troy," I smiled pleasantly, "we saved you a seat." I gestured to the lone empty chair at the far end of the table, not coincidentally, the one partially blocked by a support column and directly beneath the air conditioning vent. "What's all this?" Troy asked, his confident smile slipping. "Where's Curtis and Malcolm, the executive team?" "This is the executive team," I replied. Curtis accepted a position with Henderson Group last month. Apparently, they offered a country club membership. Malcolm retired to Boca Raton. We announced both at the last meeting. "What meeting? I didn't get any." "All notifications were sent to your company email, which according to IT logs, you haven't accessed in 147 days. Derek supplied helpfully. As per company bylaws, Section 5.3, failure to participate in 3 consecutive board meetings constitutes voluntary resignation from executive duties. Troy remained standing, briefcase clutched in his hand like a shield. "I'm still the majority shareholder." "Actually," Ramona interjected, sliding a document across the glossy table, "as established during our previous interaction, you currently hold 12% of outstanding shares. The paperwork you signed last week confirmed this position. I was under duress. The signing was videotaped, witnessed by 2 paralegals. And you stated clearly you understood all terms." Ramona replied with the calm of someone who had never lost a case. "Your text messages confirming acceptance are also documented." Troy finally took his seat, the cold air from the vent immediately ruffling his carefully tousled hair. "Fine. Let's just get this over with. I assume this is about the formal transfer of my remaining shares?" "Oh no," I smiled. "This is our regular quarterly meeting. We're discussing the company rebrand." "Rebrand?" Troy's head snapped up. "What rebrand?" I clicked to the next slide in my presentation, revealing our company's sleek new logo and name, Maeve and Associates. "You're removing my name?" Troy's voice hit a note I'd never heard before, something between outrage and genuine hurt. "The market research was quite compelling," Piper added, tapping her pen against her tablet. "Brand recognition for Maeve tested 23% higher than Collins among our target demographic." "That's impossible. I'm the face of this company." "Were," Derek corrected gently. "Our client retention survey showed that 87% of our clients had been working directly with Maeve for the past 3 years, while only 35% recalled their last meeting with you. Our new sustainability consulting division has already secured contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies," Patricia interjected, clicking to the next slide. "And we've expanded from 30 to 47 employees in the past quarter alone, primarily in the digital transformation team that has doubled revenue projections for Q3. Troy looked around the table, searching for an ally and finding none. Not even a sympathetic glance. Just professional courtesy masking collective indifference, the corporate equivalent of changing your relationship status to stranger. "This is insane," he muttered. "You can't just erase 20 years of—" "Troy," I interrupted, my voice softer now. "You erased yourself. When you walked away from your responsibilities, when you emptied our checking account, when you chose freedom over partnership." For just a moment, something flickered across Troy's face. Recognition, perhaps, of consequences meeting actions, but it vanished quickly beneath his practiced charm. "Look, clearly there's been a miscommunication. I took some personal time, yes, but I never intended to abandon the company. Amber and I have been developing a whole new division for Collins Creative, a wellness and authenticity vertical that could really— We've actually expanded quite successfully without that," Patricia interjected, clicking to the next slide. Our new sustainability consulting division has already secured contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies. And our digital transformation team has doubled revenue projections for Q3, Derek added. The meeting continued for another excruciating hour, during which Troy was systematically educated on exactly how unnecessary he had become. Not with cruelty, but with the kind of polite, data-driven precision that left no room for emotional appeals. Charts displaying company growth since his departure, client testimonials praising the new leadership, financial projections showing record profits. By the time we reached any other business, Troy had slouched so far down in his chair that his chin nearly touched his chest. The air conditioning had turned his artfully disheveled hair into a flat, sad reminder of his diminished stature. Just one final item, I said, checking my notes. As discussed in previous meetings, we'll be relocating headquarters next month to the new C-Home development. The lease has been signed, and renovations begin Monday. You're moving offices without consulting me? Troy asked, a final, feeble attempt at relevance. The decision was approved by shareholders representing 88% ownership, Vivian replied, not unkindly. The minutes from that meeting are in your folder. As the meeting adjourned, Troy remained seated while others filed out, making small talk about weekend plans and dinner reservations. I hung back, gathering my presentation materials, giving him space for the conversation I knew was coming. So this is your revenge? He finally asked when we were alone. Taking my company, my name? No, Troy, I replied, closing my laptop. This is just good business. The company is thriving. The team is happy. The clients are satisfied. And you? His voice had lost its usual confidence. Are you happy, Maeve? I considered the question seriously. I'm not sure happy is the right word. I'm authentic. The irony wasn't lost on him. His mouth twitched. For what it's worth, he said, suddenly looking every bit his 47 years. Amber and I broke up last week. She said I wasn't present enough in our relationship. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not cruelly, but with genuine amusement at the cosmic punchline. The universe has a sense of humor, I observed. Yeah, well, turns out freedom isn't exactly what I thought it would be. It rarely is. He stood straightening his rumpled shirt. So what happens now? With us, I mean. With the divorce. The papers were delivered to your new apartment yesterday. Standard dissolution of marriage. Equal division of remaining joint assets. No contest needed. That's it? 20 years ends with paperwork? 20 years ended with a note on a kitchen island, Troy. The paperwork is just documentation. He nodded slowly, accepting this truth. And the company? My shares? You'll continue receiving quarterly dividends on your 12%. I've arranged for Ramona to handle the distributions. You won't need to attend meetings if you'd prefer not to. That's fair. He sounded surprised. I've always been fair, Troy. You just never noticed. As he turned to leave, defeated but not destroyed, I added one final piece to my victory. By the way, I bought a yacht. Named it Floating Board Meeting. I'm living aboard in Galveston now, commuting to Austin 3 days a week. The sunset views are everything I'd imagined. Troy stopped, his back to me. You always said you wanted to live on the water. I thought it was just talk. No, Troy. You just weren't listening. After he left, I stood at the window overlooking Austin's skyline. The city glittered below like possibilities made concrete. In my reflection, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. Not just the power suit and perfect posture, but a woman fully visible, perhaps for the first time. My phone buzzed with a text from the marina. Sunset cruise preparations complete, Ms. Collins. Champagne chilled as requested. As I gathered my things to head for Galveston, I realized that Troy had given me a gift after all. Not the freedom he'd sought for himself, but the freedom to finally become the woman I'd always been. Just without the man-sized shadow obscuring my light. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's world. It's about building your own, exactly as you want it, and charging them fair market value for the lesson. 6 months to the day after Troy left his I Need Freedom note, I hosted a dinner party aboard the Floating Board Meeting. The guest list was small, but significant. Troy's three sisters, Ramona, and our new executive team. Notably absent was Troy himself. Not because he wasn't invited, but because he'd moved to Sedona to find his center after our last encounter left him temporarily without one. The yacht's deck offered panoramic views of Galveston Bay, the sunset painting the sky in hues that even the most expensive Westlake Hills real estate couldn't provide. I captured the sunset with my professional camera. Some habits never die, even when you've traded photography for corporate leadership. As Vivian joined me at the railing, her expression thoughtful. "Are we celebrating something specific tonight?" she asked. "Freedom," I replied with a smile that no longer carried any bitterness, in all its unexpected forms. The dinner was catered by a local seafood restaurant. I'd learned that while I excelled at corporate strategy and financial restructuring, my culinary skills remained firmly in the can-open wine bottles without breaking the cork category. As dessert was served, Piper tapped her glass gently. "A toast," she announced, "to Maeve, who taught all of us that the best revenge isn't just living well, it's living authentically while maintaining excellent profit margins." Laughter rippled around the table, followed by the clink of glasses and murmurs of, "Hear, hear." The moment felt surreal, sitting on my own yacht surrounded by people who saw me clearly, leading a company that now carried my name. "You know," Audrey said thoughtfully, "Troy called me yesterday." The table fell silent, curious. "He asked if I thought you'd consider taking him back," she continued, looking directly at me. "Not romantically, professionally. He pitched himself as a brand ambassador for Maeve and Associates." I nearly choked on my champagne. "Please tell me you're joking." "I wish I were." He said, and I quote, "I've always been the people person. Maeve needs someone who can work a room." The table erupted in disbelieving laughter. "The audacity is almost impressive," Ramona noted dryly. "What did you tell him?" I asked Audrey. "I told him that Maeve & Associates stock has increased 32% since the rebrand. Client retention is at an all-time high, and the waiting list for new clients extends into next quarter." She smiled wickedly. Then I suggested he update his LinkedIn profile. As the evening progressed and the conversation flowed as freely as the champagne, I found myself drifting slightly away from the group. I picked up my camera again, framing the golden light on the water through my viewfinder. Photography had been my first love, long before corporate success, capturing moments of authenticity that others missed. Now I had the freedom to pursue both passions without compromise. Vivian joined me, her expression thoughtful. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked. "I was just thinking about how differently things turned out than I expected," I admitted. 6 months ago, I thought I was fighting to save my marriage, my company, my identity. And instead, I discovered I never needed saving. Just space to exist without apology. Vivian nodded, understanding completely. "You know, growing up with Troy, we always thought he was the lucky one, the golden child, the charmer who could talk his way into or out of anything. And now? Now I think he might have been the unlucky one all along." She looked back at the laughter and warmth of our gathering. He never learned how to build something real, something that lasts. As the guests departed later that evening, each heading back to Austin with promises to return for future sunset cruises, I stood alone on my yacht, the embodiment of the freedom I'd always wanted but never prioritized. My phone buzzed with a text from Eleanor, Troy's mother, who had finally stopped trying to fix the situation once the divorce was finalized. "Troy tells me you're living on a boat now. I hope you have proper seasickness medication. Water is so unstable." I laughed out loud at her thinly veiled disapproval, no longer caring whether Eleanor Collins thought I was making appropriate life choices. The Eleanor text was followed immediately by a message from Troy himself. Our first direct communication in weeks. "Heard from Audrey you're not interested in my brand ambassador proposal. Your loss. BTW, did you get the alimony paperwork?" The irony wasn't lost on me. Troy, who had emptied our checking account, abandoned our company, and tried to sell his shares to fund a green juice empire, was now asking about alimony. I typed back a single response. "No alimony in our agreement." Check section 5.2. I believe in equal outcomes. Remember? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared, then vanished again. Some messages didn't require a response. Some lessons had to be learned in silence. The following Monday, at our first board meeting in the new Seaholm offices, Patricia presented the quarterly earnings report, record profits, expanding client base, and a company culture thriving under leadership that valued both results and respect. "Any questions?" she asked as she concluded her presentation. Derek raised his hand. "Just one. How did we ever function before?" The question wasn't directed specifically at me, but all eyes turned my way nonetheless. "We adapted," I replied simply. "That's what successful organisms do. They don't cling to outdated structures or limiting beliefs. They look at changed circumstances and think, what opportunity does this present?" Later, as I boarded my private water taxi to take me back to Galveston, the commute that had horrified Eleanor but delighted me, I realized that Troy's abandonment had been the corporate equivalent of pulling out a Jenga block that everyone thought was structural but turned out to be merely decorative. The tower hadn't collapsed. It had redistributed its weight and stood stronger than before. On my yacht that evening, watching the sunset with a glass of wine and the satisfaction of a day well spent, I raised a silent toast to freedom, not the kind that runs away from responsibility, but the kind that runs toward authenticity. And if that freedom happened to come with an 82-foot yacht, prime marina views, and majority ownership of a thriving company, well, that was just good negotiating.